it can be such a lonely industry that people don't ask for help.
Yeah.
Partly because a lot of coaches have a lot of ego, and because they don't have anyone to ask help with. They have it for business, but they don't have it for the actual clients. So that's the aim of these, is to essentially be like, if you imagine your one-to-ones being like a deep dive into your client's problems or where everything is, these are just to sort of like keep you online in between. It's like your weekly check-in.
Yeah, no, I like that. I will probably try to do some, because I've got a load of lists, but yeah, it was on my to-do list over the weekend to get get my mental form up together, because I need two screens. I can't do it one screen. I just find it too. I can't retain the information. I'm like, so they weigh what? Okay, right.
Yeah. I get that.
Yeah.
Well,
So I need
hopefully moving this to the portal soon, which might be a little bit easier. It should have been done by now, but there's a few things that like can't be done on a website like you can on a spreadsheet. So Graphic having a bit of a hard time. So apparently it's nearly there, but.
Okay. I mean, you still need the information. I still need the information from my app to move over, unless there's some way to cleverly kind of.
Yeah, I think it'll be one of these things where like the first time you do it, it'll be a challenge, and then like once it's done, it's done. It's like when you go through the mental form, like putting all your clients in, but then you only have to update it when you have like new client, put in their starting data, and then just update whether you do monthly or what I would probably recommend just for like making check-ins easier and just make for peace of mind. Just put half an hour aside on a Friday afternoon and do what I call a Friday status check. So, didn't you say you was having a chat about an app? Yeah, but that's different. So this is not an SMU portal app. This is a coaching app. So the OneFit is like a Trainerize, essentially. It's just very close to a spreadsheet. Kane. By the way, Kane, if you're not driving, can we have a camera? I don't know if you are driving. There we go. There we go. I like speaking to people. But yeah, so that's the. But what's I going to say with that? But yeah, so the reason why I think like having it as a Friday status check, like one, it's the good way to close the week off, knowing if my client's on track, who is and who isn't, and also when people get weekly check-ins from people, they get caught in the waffle so often. They get caught in the long story your client gives as to why they've not followed the plan this week. Whereas if you know on Friday already before the check-in comes in, the data, you're like, right, they're not on track, and this is the reason why. When you read the waffle, at least you're going, right, how can I interpret this into helping them not have 12 meals out a week or go for a morning walk? You're not getting lost in a story and just trying to put out fires. You lose that emotional connection to it.
Yeah, sure.
So for people that are here, like just again, it can be rough numbers if you don't know them exactly, but put in the chat, how many current active clients do you have?
Hang on, the chat.
If you go to the
I've
bottom,
got it. No, it's not that I can't find it. It's just that I just for some reason.
That's a good number. Busy.
Yeah.
How many of those are in person? How many of those are online?
So I have two setups. So I have a group session that I run, and there are, I think there's 12 in that. And then I have about 22-ish on a kind of in person, and they all come in at least once a month. Okay. So I see them in person once a month, or at a minimum.
Like a hybrid. And out of those 35, how many of those people are over 60 just trying to stay out of pain and move?
Over 50, I would say 80%. Okay. Over 60, probably, yeah. So, but that side of things for sure. I've got like maybe 4 who are under 50.
Okay.
Maybe not even that. Maybe like 3. Yeah, there's mostly over 50s. Over 60s.
For this question, I suppose you can decide to answer it how you like, depending on like, because it could be you can take those out because they're just humming along nicely and you're just part of their weekly routine. But if they've got any, you might go, oh well, they've got other goals. So just put in the chat now the number of those clients that are on track for the goals that you'd set them. So whether that is something trackable, whether it's hitting a 100-kilo bench press, losing 20 kilos of body fat, whatever it is. And like, if this is difficult, I understand that. Like, but this is the
20 maybe.
20?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And like, because this is the thing, right? So it's good to be able, if that's tricky, that's maybe a good sign of the first thing to do in your business is to find some level of trackable metric. Because while you'll have, and I know for people who are slightly older, it might not matter. It might retain because it's just what I do on my Tuesday mornings. But like, the reason why people won't stay is because they'll start to lose the value in something. So having something to shoot towards not only means they're probably going to get better retention, at very least, if not better results, because you're keeping track of it and you're aware of it and you've not gotten complacent going through the motions, which we all do as coaches. But also for you, it's quite soul. Like, you might love that person you have at Tuesday at 10 o'clock, but it's just like,
Oh yeah. 100%. I mean, I have tried to push a few people because we've had this conversation
yeah,
before, and I've got maybe, I don't know, I've got a couple, like we'll try and do like, or maybe you've got a holiday coming up, or there's something, or do you want to be able to do a push-up, or
yeah.
those sorts of things. But I do have probably a good chunk of people who are just like, I don't really have a goal, I just want to be stronger and healthier. But like, could we just think of something?
Well,
So it is actually
you dig
hard
into
sometimes.
that, right? That like, the question is not to, and I know you're paraphrasing for this chat,
Yeah.
but like, the goal is not to get flustered and be like, oh, but come on, give me something. It's more like, well, let's delve into what they said. I want to be strong and healthier. Okay, so how would you define being stronger? Or how would you define being healthier? Like, what would we have to do for you to go, I'm healthier? Like, how have we reached that destination? And see what they
For
come
you.
up with. And like, you
Yeah.
might find it be like, well, I just want to be able to wake up and not have any pain. Okay, cool. Where are we getting pain? Oh, I get pain in my hip when I get up in the morning. Okay, cool. As you get out of bed, as I get out of bed. So, okay, there's something on this hip extension thing. Right, cool. So what metrics that we can track could we set that might move us in that direction? So that could be getting a slightly stronger hip thrust. That could be, it could be a rec femi thing. So we could be looking at working up to a wall couch stretch. We now have goals. And it's just a case of like, it's not maybe as exciting as someone wanting to go to a powerlifting meet at 4% body fat, but we've like gone further in those questions. It could just be,
I think as well,
it could be as, go on.
Sometimes put external, try to put, so for example, I'm floating the idea of us like walking up Pen y Fan, for example, like something that's kind of like
That's cool.
for them, which is a huge goal. But then it just keeps them on track. Because I do sort of say, the mantra of, we need to keep you, nobody trains at maintenance, basically. So having that thing to kind of push you forwards all the time.
Yeah, I like that. And I think doing things like that, you might get an uptake. Oh, I want to do that. And then you'll get that goal for that period of time. But it even could be something as wishy-washy. It's like, how can we track anything? So I want to be healthier. I want to just feel less bloated. Cool. So there's an inflammation thing there, right? That could be the goal. Okay, what could we track with that, right? Let's look at resting heart rate is. Let's look at blood pressure is. Let's look at HRV is. Let's look at VO2 max, see what that is. We could even potentially go down to something as wishy-washy as, let's make sure that we have a certain amount of grams of omega-3 to omega-6 for 3 months, right? It's sort of trackable. It's a really shit goal, but you might end up going, right, let's see how well we did with this, and it just gives you something. So that means, and Kane, you said 7, so we've got just over half. So essentially what we're looking for here, with certainly as you get busier, is aiming for like a 1 in 4 ratio of clients to goal. And I normally say 1 to 4 ratio of clients to like, holy fuck, goal, because anyone can say we can lose 1 pound and everyone 100% success rate. But if you got a quarter of your clients at the minimum going towards something relatively impressive, you're probably doing good as a coach. And I put that there is to, 1, if you're not that target, you've got something to hit, and 2, to give yourself a break. Like, we always focus on the clients that aren't doing well as opposed to the clients that are. So we can get a 1 in 4. We can kind of, like, 3/4 of our client base, we're still going to try hard and get them up and try and improve that ratio. But like, it's probably normal. If we look at a Mike Thurston or a Joe Wicks, if he sends out 1,000 plans, he probably gets 250 results, right? At best, because those plans are weak. So Kane's in a good place here. You're in a good place here from that. Okay, cool. So, and I'm always going to do that exercise at the start of these, just to sort of, where you are from a status check perspective. And then I suppose open floor. Sam, is there any particular questions, client issues, knowledge stuff that you want to go through today?
I will take a question actually for I have a lady who she has arthritis quite badly in her knee and joints and things like that. And
Is it my mother-in-law? She has this right now.
um I'm leaning towards putting her on the anti-inflammatory diet. I don't she has just recently really successfully lost about 6 kilos. So she's sitting quite nicely at about sort of 69 kilos. So she's
nice.
So I don't really want her to lose any weight particularly.
Yeah.
So would the anti-inflammatory thing, do you think that would have an effect? I mean, it instinctively I'm like, of course it's going to have an effect if it's an anti-inflammatory type thing on arthritis. Is there any things I need to look out for, or in terms of not letting her lose too much weight, just keeping the calories high, blah blah blah?
You could go for the calorie high thing. I mean, like, she might lose a bit of it, but again, like, if we look at this as like things come in waves, so you can always go, right, goal of this period of time. Like, it's like a recomp, right? Would a recomp in someone be a nice thing for most people who wants a body composition standpoint? Should that be the ideal aim? Yes. But a true recomp over a year probably has sometimes a weight is lost and weight is gained. As opposed to, like, because then it's much easier from a coach's perspective to be able to track it and go, I did X equals Y. Whereas we're trying to achieve two different, like, we're trying to write a, what's the word I'm looking for? Horse with two asses.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's a bit more tricky. So I think you could potentially put her into a small deficit of not maintenance calories and try and minimize weight loss. But I wouldn't worry if weight is lost. It can always be gained. And if they're healthier, you can always just ramp up the food potentially higher than it was in the first place, which is just a nice byproduct of these things. Like,
she's had she was on omeprazole, so she's obviously got some sort of gut thing going on anyway. So but from an anti-inflammatory perspective, the diet should still have some sort of anti-inflammatory effect on the arthritis as well. I mean, I would imagine.
I would have. Well, arthritis in itself is an inflammatory condition.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So like, I'm just trying to remind myself of this diagram before I butcher it in terms of drawing it, but in terms of understanding pain, because I will miss something because it's complicated and chemistry and all that sort of difficult shit. Where am I? Oh, that's the one. Oops. I've got a loud thing in here. Hopefully that'll pause. So like, if we think, and this, like, it doesn't have to be necessarily the full-on sort of like inflammatory sort of anti-inflammatory sort of diet thing here. Like, we could just take some of the basic principles. Like, how old is this person?
She is 68, I think.
So she's probably gonna be. She might, if she's in enough pain, she might make big changes, right? But
her knee is pretty impressively swollen. So
yeah, so she might be able to make some big changes. But if we look at this, if you think of this as like a cell, to know how these things happen, right? So a body will release in terms of various different stressors. Oh, am I spelling this right? It'll release something called cytokines, which is sort of like your trigger. I've realised that doesn't show up on the.
No, I can't see it, but that's all right. It's a bit high
above the camera. Right, cool. That should be.
Yep.
I don't know if I spelled that right, but cytokines is like the inflammatory trigger, right?
Yeah.
And then it will get into. It will go to the cell, whatever cells that it's deciding to attack itself, right? So inflammation is a good thing. We need it, right? So you cut your finger, you need a level of inflammation. Nothing moving to fat loss or getting rid of arthritis, like bleeding out every time you get a paper cut, right? But it's when these things become chronic, whether this is because the body's always got foreign invaders that it's chronically attacking, or whether it starts like an autoimmune condition or a gut issue or leaky gut, it's starting to attack food molecules or potentially even itself, right? So we get this environment, this inflammatory trigger, cytokines, goes to the cell, and it's going to try and affect the. I'm not going to try and draw a DNA, despite it being in my logo, because I know I will mess up a double helix, right? So it can't get into the cell, but it needs to speak to this. So this will actually then communicate with something called kinases. Now, you don't necessarily need to know what this necessarily is, but It's it's a great analogy from Vince Pitstick, or a reference here. It says, imagine that the cytokines get the message that there's inflammation, but they speak Spanish, right? But the DNA speaks English. The kinase is essentially the English translator. But tell the DNA some shit's going down. You need to send in some cavalry, right? So this will release some like other inflammatory kinases, right? I'm just gonna put KN rather than actually giving the actual names to them right here, right? And that will then release something called COX-2, which is like another cytokine, right? And that will then talk to various acids in our body. And these are our fats. So don't get confused with acid like stomach acid. We're going to be talking like certain fatty acids, right, in our bloodstream in our body. Now, depending on the type of fatty acid these are, right, these will either connect and cause issues, and then that will go around the bloodstream and into various other cells and potentially cause issues with them. And the fats that tend to cause the most issues are going to be omega-6 fats. So this is the reason why I talk about omega-6 to omega-3, right? Whereas omega-3, it's harder for this binding process to happen. So the easy thing she can do in terms of inflammation, like there's the things that release these triggers, we can cut down the inputs. So that's going to be things like stress. There could be some environmental toxins in here. There could be a sleep component here if people are recovering well. Could be a lifestyle thing. So that could be training, for example. I don't think she's pounding the pavements, doing lots of running, which is causing inflammation. Could be injury. It could be food particles if she's got leaky gut. You mentioned a gut thing. What's the gut thing she's got?
So she was taking omeprazole, but it was like a reflux type of sort of acid reflux.
Okay, cool. So I've got food particles. What was I going to write there? Overactive immune system. So like we've got these bunch of things here that potentially we could be looking at: smoking, booze, these sort of things. These are things that are going to be your triggers that are going to cause this to be released. So the first thing you could essentially do is like, okay, cool, let's look at a training response. Is she recovering from training? Is she sleeping well, right? We could look at toxins here, because these toxins, like all of us right now, are dealing with low-level stressors on our body. Some of us more, we're in big cities, some of us less, if we just live in the countryside. But it's also one of those things like how, like, what's going to is trying to remove toxins from someone's life causing more stress than it is removing, because they're in everything these days, right? They're in all our toiletries and our products and our water. It's like, can we really do something? Like even the bottled water, right? We've got the microplastics in here. So it's like, yeah, does this stuff make a difference? Sure. But because it's in everything, is it going to cause more stress than it's worth? So that's probably the last place I'd go. We could look at, obviously, this training's not going to be particularly good. We may have an injury thing in here, which you'll know how to deal with particularly well. We've got this gut thing here. So if there is a acid reflux issue, right? So omeprazole being sort of like an antacid type thing, often you'll find that when people have GERD, if it's not got better, you might want to rethink the medication. Now, it's not your job to. You want to speak to...
So we visited that. So she has had, from her doctor said she could stop taking omeprazole. Okay. She basically just has wound it down, because she was finding if she was going out for a meal, or she was having going out and having, she likes to go out for meals, and so if that happens, then it gets worse. So she's just now taking it as an extreme thing, so not taking it every day. So it's coping.
What I might consider doing is, if she can willing to take it down, maybe try it, because then if your doctor said she can stop taking it, that means that you have room to be able to play around with it without necessarily being out of your scope. If a doctor's prescribed something, you can't really, it's not really in our place to say don't do it.
No.
But if she's like in that position, okay, well maybe if she's not prescribed to take it, maybe for the next 3 weeks, we'll switch that out for like get a betaine HCl supplement or a digestive enzyme, and take that instead of the medication when you go out, and see if that actually makes an improvement. If it doesn't, go back to it. But if it does, then we know it's probably too low stomach acid rather than too much.
Okay. Where could she get a digestive enzyme from?
Well, the shapeshifters do one that has betaine in it, but most supplement companies, you just want to look at like wherever she gets her digestive enzymes from, just to make sure that there'll be all your enzymes, protease, lipase, amylase. That's the other one I'm looking for. There'll be those then, but look for one that has betaine in them, betaine.
Okay.
Because betaine is the hydrochloric acid. So if she's too low on hydrochloric acid, this will help break down this food. Because if this is the thing here, if she's got undigested food in the stomach, this could have a knock-on effect, moving like rather bigger particles of food going into the lower small intestine, and which then can lead to this leaky gut thing, which then could cause an immune response, which then could be causing the pain that she's getting around the body. Right? It could be the gut thing that's now led in her diet's not good, and she has more of these fatty acids in the bloodstream are now going around everywhere. Now she gets inflammation that's not even related to where it came from. Right? And arthritis is often a chronic inflammation thing. There's often stuff upstream from arthritis, because it's not like I injured my knee and then knee pain occurred. It's like I did nothing and my knee is hurting. So it's like something's gotten to the bloodstream, circulated around, and there's attached onto something in the knee. So there's an upstream thing. So I'd look at potentially like the basics, lifestyle stuff, stress management stuff. Maybe look at this gut stuff. If she's super stressed, she's probably going to have an overactive immune system. Which, to be fair, that gets a little bit complicated when we go into immune system. So I just start with the stress stuff, and then like minimize where possible booze and smoking.
Yeah.
And then what I would potentially look at doing is like bringing down omega-6s. Oops, I forgot that's right. And increase omega-3s, which is essentially what that Mediterranean reset diet does. But like, you don't have to go as all in like, here's your template. It could be literally as simple as like, okay, for a while I want you to cut out processed food, seed oils, nuts, nut butters, grains, seeds, that sort of stuff. It's not that they're bad, but if we can minimize those for the next 3 months and replace them with olive oil and oily fish and maybe a fish oil supplement and things like this, maybe throwing some curcumin as a supplement in there to just dampen the inflammation as well. We might like do that for a good 3 months. You might see there's improvement there, alongside the physical therapy stuff you're obviously going to do with her as well.
Okay, cool.
Does that help?
Yes, thank you very much.
So yeah, Kane, any particular questions you want to ask, dude? If you're still there, camera's just gone off. I've noticed.
He's camera shy, isn't he? Bless him.
Sometimes he goes camera on, camera off. It seems to be totally random. I don't know if he's just gone to the toilet or something. Getting ready for work. Have you got any questions, dude?
It's all good.
Well, we'll just let Sam take the floor. Anything else you want to go through then?
So I mean, anti-inflammatory, this is a big thing for me actually, because a lot of the people I work with have some sort of inflammatory response. I've just put my dad on.
It's an age thing with inflammatory as well. Inflammation is going to go up with age anyway.
And it becomes front and center, I think, as you age.
When you're 20, you're resilient.
Yeah.
I can eat tons of processed food when I'm 20 and the body just deals with it. But as you get older, it's not only is age meaning you're not working as well, but also you've probably had 20 years of these bad habits that now going, oh, it's too much now. You've done this for 15 years.
So my dad, I stuck him on it 2 weeks ago. He's lost 5 kilos. And yeah, I know.
That's nice.
So he does do that. He does tend to lose weight quite quickly. He's now stuck at well, he's not stuck at all. He's kind of bobbing up and down in the sort of 98, 99-ish range. Yeah. But yeah, that seems to be working. I'm just really interested to see how that all pans out. If I can just, and interestingly, he's finding the diet really easy to stick to.
That's good.
Yeah. So he actually really likes it. He said, you know, he's struggled to digest meat. I didn't even know that.
Well, the thing is that, especially as we age, right, because we start to lose the amount of digestive enzymes that we produce as we age, as the more inflamed we are, the body just starts to shut these down anyway. So you'll find things like, while meat is very, very good for you, it's also the hardest to digest. We talk about protein being, more satiating, and because it's harder to break down, but that works both ways. There's a pro and a con to that. So this is why when we look at the reason why on the 2 reset diets, it's not the balanced one, protein's actually slightly lower. That's the biggest question I get. It's because if people aren't healthy, protein can't be digested as well. So we just stick at the bottom end of the range. And you can always bring that up if someone's hungry later down the line.
The only other thing I have is what do I have? I've got one chap who talks the talk but will not walk the walk. But there's not a lot. I've put him up because he's like, right, yeah, no, let's do this. So I put him a meal plan in and everything, and I looked yesterday and I'm like, that's not the meal plan, is it? so I've got to catch up with him later on in the week. So that's
I think the big thing with kind of those things, like you set the expectations. People are always going to be like that to a degree, right? Everyone thinks they can do more than they think. I would look to first seek to understand before you come in with an opinion. So it's like, okay, run me through your week, and then going, okay, cool. So we set this last week. We noticed that we're a little bit far away from this. Run me through what made this challenging. And then you can like tweak and adjust the meal plan and go, okay, well, how about we added in the squares bar you're missing post-workout? We take some of this. Oh, that sounds good. Oh, you're saying you're struggling to prep food here. Oh, okay, cool. Well, could you go for a packet of smoked salmon? Like we could like just tweak and adjust that meal plan based on the fact that like, and then you've opened up that conversation early when he's maybe more willing to talk to you about, this is what I'm struggling with. And if he knows that you'll make accommodations for that, then he's probably going to tell you more down the line, as opposed to, I'll just hide the fact that I'm not doing anything, or I won't tell her, or stop replying to messages, or things like that. Because again, like if you look at these things like the ideals, like you might have to move really far back away from it. But the thing that isn't negotiated is the deficit if someone wants to lose weight. So like when we go through those template meal plans, they're based on, right, if someone's really ready to go and we can play around with, like, and they really want to make significant change, and they've got certain things that we reason why we've given them the Mediterranean reset, or the Inferno reset, or the balance reset. Here you go, off to the races. But you might, like, again, as the just calories crowd of the fitness industry, I quite rightly say that every diet works as long as you get into a caloric deficit. And like if I brought someone into a deficit, people would get healthier. They'd improve on their blood work just by the deficit alone. It might not be as quick, it might not be as efficient, but it's better. Like you can have that flexibility within the system. Start with the ideal and work back to what he's willing to do. And he might just not know. I had a client once. I shit you not. I gave him the meal plan, went through it with him, understood. Like, yeah, I understand. Next week, hey Winston, have you noticed that your carbs are super high compared to what we're giving you, and your protein's super low? So what can we do next week to sort of get that closer? He goes, oh, this and this. Okay, cool. Next week, same thing again. So what on earth is going on? And it was about week 2.5, 3. He was like, oh, I thought you owned that MyFitnessPal app, and the targets you given me, like on there, the targets given me on there were the ones that you gave me, despite me setting the targets, emailing the targets, sending him a video with the targets, running through the meal plan with him. He was too busy thinking of his next meeting. He was half in the room. And so he generally thought I owned MyFitnessPal. And I just looked at him going, dude, I wouldn't be doing this.
Yeah.
I'll be on a beach somewhere. You know?
Yeah,
so it might just be that he's certainly, people often, I find that when people are all in, like, yeah, let's do this, let's go, they're often also the people that are not really fucking listening to you.
And it's hard, like it's difficult to make a massive change, isn't it? So I mean, I thought this was going to make it life easier for him, because he's a super busy chap. So I've suggested the some of the things that hopefully, if you get caught in a meeting, the shake shift thing, it's great. You can just don't have 7 biscuits, have this instead, kind of thing. It's going to serve you.
Yeah, there you go. it's my morning shake shifter shake.
Yeah, exactly. It's but yeah, we'll see. Anyway, but I've got to shoot actually. But thank you so much. That's super helpful, and
no problem.
I will endeavour to be at these, because at 9 o'clock works.
I think next week we're gonna get a lot more people as well, because obviously we only made the change this week, and I've got Jack's gone crazy with shit before he goes away. Jenna's gonna be he's got a client booked in, but she's got them in the diary, so I think we'll get a good crowd from next week, so it should be good.
Cool. Thank you very much. I will let hopefully Kane. I don't leave. Will you be okay?
Yeah.
On your phone. But no, thank you very much.
No problem.
I will catch up with you soon. Thanks so much.
No problem at all. No problem at all. Have a good day.
You, my lovely. Bye.
Cool, Kane. Before if we could leave it here unless there's anything you want to talk about. How was Alex's thing?
Not. It was all right. We're still recording.
Yeah, we're still recording. I can unrecord it if you'd rather.
Might be easier. Just because it's not relevant.
Yeah, cool. I'll stop this here.